We are in 1 Chronicles. Last week we got through, I think, chapter 6 or 13. Basically, David had this great idea of bringing the ark back to Jerusalem, and because the people thought it was right, and he was going to just do it like he thought was right, and he loaded it up on a cart, headed back to Jerusalem, and things didn't work out the way he planned. I mean, it was a huge celebration to start with until the ox stumbled and the cart started to tip, and Uzzah, like anybody that we would be, reaches out and keeps it from falling to the ground. And as it said, the Lord's wrath had broken out against Uzzah.
Where are you at, Jeff?
1 Corinthians 13 is where we were at.
Chronicles?
Chronicles, yes. Did I say Corinthians?
Yeah.
The first time?
Yeah. No, he said Chronicles.
Okay.
So
that's what I
chapter
thought.
1 in Chronicles?
No, 13 is where we were at last week, and then we'll be in 14.
So we're starting 13?
We're starting 14. I'm reviewing 13.
Okay. Since I haven't been here, so gonna shore up.
1 Chronicles 14, we're reviewing 13. I'll make sure that everybody's on the same page, because most of the time I am not. So God's wrath broke out against Uzzah. He struck him dead. David immediately was angry at God for doing that. He couldn't understand why in the world God would do that. And then he became fearful. Because I think at that point he realized what he'd done. He did not follow how the ark was to be moved, did he? He knew they had all the writings before of how this should have been done. By who, how it was to be transported and that. He knew.
It's by the priest, was it by the...
It was supposed to be by the Levitical priests, the Levites.
On poles.
On poles, through the rings on the side. God had all this planned out. He had it designed exactly the way he wanted it designed. And he had it laid out to them who was to carry it, how they were to carry it. And yet David, I think as we look there in verse 4 of 13, the whole assembly agreed to do this when they planned on carrying it back because it seemed right to all the people. I think that's a key verse there. It seemed right to all the people. Andrew brought out last week Proverbs 14, 12.
Yes.
What does it say?
The way that seems right unto a man, the end thereof is death.
It's death. The way that seems right unto a man. How many times do we think, yeah, that's right. I think that's the way it should be. And yet, he didn't consult God here, did he? It was just, hey, this seems right. We need to move this back to Jerusalem. Everybody agreed with him. Let's do this. But he didn't consult God in that, did he? So then, this happens. He's fearful now. He thinks, God's going to strike me now. So he leaves the ark.
It looks like he jumped to conclusions.
He did, well, yeah.
That's one.
But he leaves it at Obed-Edom.
Yeah.
He said, we aren't going to go to Jerusalem with this because we don't know what's going to happen. So he leaves it there, and then we'll pick up in 14. Paul.
It says David then was fearful. People ask, well, why did he kill Uzzah? I think David is fearful. Isn't that the purpose?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Really fear God and keep his commandments.
Mm-hmm. And that's keep his commandments. There you go.
He's doing. He's bringing them around to that position.
Right.
Now he's going to ask, well, how should I do this?
Exactly. That's something that we need to keep in mind today. Sometimes things happen and we just don't really know why they happen. But we need to look at them and see if God is trying to speak to us. If God is trying to get us to see something, to maybe have more fear, and not that shaking of the respectful fear. I'm sure that at this time, though, David was probably shaking in his boots, thinking that he may be struck down next. But I think as we read on in 14 there, we're going to see that it finally sunk in that, I need to probably ask God on these things before I just go ahead and go out because the people say it's okay. Dan, did you have something?
Yeah, you just see kind of the mindset in chapter 13, the first 4 verses, where David's consulting with them, and he says that, and David said to the assembly, it seems good to you, man from our God. And then down at 4, all the assembly agreed to do so, for the thing was right in the eyes of all the people. It seems to me, David, he was putting the people before God. And that's why he did it the way he did it, because he was focused on the people. Oh, this would be easier, we'll just throw it on wheels and make it easier instead of following God.
Yeah.
It's also a fault in David's leadership there. Oh, it seems right to all the people. Well,
Yeah.
David, you're king. You're supposed to be the leader of these folks.
Exactly. Right.
You know, you calm down.
And you know, when David, being the king, and as we've looked here, everybody is for it, aren't they? I mean, everybody. We want David as the king. Well, if he makes a suggestion, what are they going to say? Well, I don't know, David. I don't know if I would really... They're going to say, yes, do it. Joe?
Well, it's the same thing with Aaron back with when Moses went up. He
Yep.
left Aaron in charge.
In charge of the people.
And he said, well, this is what the people wanted to do, is to build this golden calf, you know.
Moses is up on the mountain for, what, 40 days? And they're getting tired. He was supposed to be back long ago. He's not
probably
back.
dead.
He's dead. You know, who knows? So, Aaron, we need to have something to do here.
And they reverted back to Egypt
What they were used to.
yeah.
What they came out of, the worshiping the other god, the golden gods. So what do? They throw all their jewelry together, they melt it down, they make a golden calf.
Well, then Aaron said that just just appeared.
It just, oh yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just appeared, didn't it? I think the people had a lot to do with it. Same as here. Instead of David, in verse 2 there, what Dan pointed out, he then said to the whole assembly of Israel, it seems good to you. That's the first thing he said. It seems good to you. And then later it says, and if it is the will of the Lord our God. That was second. Well, if it's the will. But if it's good to you, it's good to go, right? But it didn't happen well, did it? Things didn't happen. I mean, they were excited. They were dancing. They were playing the harps and the lyres and all of this stuff. It was a great thing because they were headed back. They were taking the ark back to Jerusalem to worship God, and yet they weren't doing it the proper way. Dan.
And that's a warning for us. The intention was good.
It was.
It was good and what he was wanting to do, but the problem was they weren't following Christ or the Lord's rules. Same thing today. People have good intention,
Yes.
but if they're not doing as God wants them to do, it's in vain.
Yep. There's a reason that there is so much in this book for us as Christians. From beginning to end, all of this in here is applicable to us today, isn't it? I mean, we're looking at the Old Testament here in Chronicles. Some of this stuff still applies to us, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's how the people were. It shows us how people are. The children of Israel. How they followed his commands and then how they fell away from them. How they were led into the wilderness and everything was supplied for them and yet they complained. How everything was going to be great and then it wasn't in their minds. Yes?
And you know, when you talk like that too, fear is probably the biggest drive of them. You know, because Moses is up on the mountain forever, he's dead. You know, he's not coming back. So now we need to make something that we can actually know that's going to answer our prayers. You know, and it's their fear of not knowing God's plan of what's going to actually take place, you know,
Not trusting.
It's not having the trust or
or trust, yeah.
let's just put it, the basic faith. It's not having faith in God that He will take care of us. That's the basis of why we live, isn't it? The way we do is because of our faith in God. We can't see God. We haven't seen Jesus. But it's our faith in reading this book, which we know is truth, and believing in something that we haven't seen, and having faith in that, knowing that we will be taken care of. Andrew?
Yeah, how often do we spend our time thinking about all the things we need to take care of ourselves?
Exactly.
I've got to handle this.
Exactly.
God's an afterthought. When it gets completely out of control, I can't figure out a way, but then I'll go.
That's when, yes. Yep. It's what we was discussing a little bit with the ark. How long did they not have it? He was in a box back here in some other town for 20 years. So we don't really need him. And how is that with us today? We got this all taken care of until we get in the tight. And then it's like, ooh, we need to call on our great and awesome God. Well, why didn't we call on him the first time? Why didn't David say, okay, Lord, this is the right thing to do. How do you want me to do it? Dan.
And you see, it's interesting how David doesn't learn. Because if you look over in 13, he was afraid. So he decided it was just better to leave it, not mess with it, instead of saying, okay, how is it we're supposed to do this? And too many people do that today. They walk away from the church, they walk away from Christ, instead of looking at what they need to do.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, I kind of laugh because if I'm watching a football game and it's not going the way I want it to go, I turn the channel like I have something to do with it. If I don't watch it, it won't happen. So, well, that's David. Hey, if I leave it here, out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
Yep.
Surely it'll be okay. I'll just leave it here.
Yeah.
When he left it there at Obed-Edom, what happened with them where he left it? They were blessed.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, they were blessed when he left it there. If he'd have just asked God, I messed up. Admit, I messed up. I am fearful of you because I know what you can do here. I messed up. How do you want this done? And he could have taken it on into Jerusalem. The proper and correct way. But he didn't.
And he had the Levites there. They knew how it was supposed to be moved. They were with him.
Mm-hmm. I often think, why didn't they speak up?
Right.
They were there. It says they were all there.
They're there.
Why didn't the Levites speak up and say, hey, now remember, we were given this duty. David, remember, you know, maybe they didn't want to ruffle his feathers because he's king. I don't know.
Well, it says they were there.
I know it.
And the Levites, also priests and Levites.
But why didn't they say something? Why did they just ignore what was happening? I mean, I don't think I'd want to be associated with something that was done the wrong way when you're the ones that are responsible for it. I mean, when he loaded it on the cart, what do you think the Levites were thinking?
This will be easier.
Yeah. They just went along with the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed all right to them too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But is that right? When you know it's not, and you still go along with the crowd. I mean, think of that. And then when this happens, when Uzzah is struck down, can you think what's going through their mind? It's like, woo! We didn't realize that he was really serious about how he wanted this to travel. But now we see that. And so he leaves it with Obed-Edom. They have blessings running out their ears. I mean, it's like, wow, this is great.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
This kind of brings me back to Saul in the New Testament. He really felt like he was doing the right thing.
Exactly.
He felt like he was doing the right thing and that he was, killing Christians, taking them to prison,
Mhm.
whatever. And it took a real drastic event on the road to Damascus.
Yep.
For him to see. So like Dan was saying, with Uzzah here, it took that
To get David.
to open the eyes of that.
Mhm.
And I was thinking about that even in my own life. It took my daughter Jeannie
Mhm.
to open my eyes.
Yep.
It took and I think about, Uzzah was basically kind of innocent.
He was doing what any of us would have done.
Right. And I think about my daughter who was innocent, and what had happened to her had a big impact on me.
Right.
And now I can look back on it, and I know where she's at now.
Mhm.
But in a sense, she kind of sacrificed her own life for me.
Yeah.
And her whole attitude and how she loved the God so much.
Right.
I mean, you can look back on, I can look back on that, and I'm sure that Saul looked back on that instant on the road to Damascus as a blessing,
Mhm.
and I can look at that too.
Right.
And I think we have, like Dan was saying, we have to look at these things that happen in our lives and see what God's
What he's trying to show
us,
Mhm.
or reach us,
You know, it can be anything that can happen to us. And it would make us change our mindset. It can be anything. It can be losing a close friend, a family member. It can be something that happens to you, a near-death experience. And it changes your mindset. It puts that fear in you to the point that you start thinking, maybe I need to rethink this. Maybe there's something going on here that I need to look at closer. And I think that's what happened with David. Same thing as Jill pointed out with Paul and Saul. When Saul was in the New Testament, when he was persecuting the Christians, he was doing it with everything he had. His whole life was centered around persecuting those people that were coming up with all of this radical Messiah being here. He did everything he could to stop that. And yes, it took blindness on the road to Damascus to turn his thinking around. And then he took that fervency, that zeal, and put it to good use. To further. And that's the way we need to be. We need to take all that stuff that we're devoting towards ourselves and direct it more towards God. It's like Andrew says, how many times do we get up and we've got it all planned out what we're going to do? I mean, we got to be honest. When we get up in the morning, we've got our day planned, don't we? This is what we're going to do. Do we ask God first? God, what do you want me to do today? I have to admit, I don't. Yes, I read my devotionals every day. But do I really get real with God and say, God, I'd like to get this accomplished today, but that may not be what you want me to accomplish. What do you want me to do today with the time that you are giving me? Because He's the one that's giving us the time to do these things. It's not our choice. He's the one that's giving us the next breath to take. And if we don't say, what do you want me to do with that? Then we're pretty selfish. Joe.
Paul had to also learn how to love,
Mm-hmm.
and the way Jesus was teaching, and to be a comforter. So what we were reading in our devos this morning about, because of what's the one thing that after Jeannie passed away, I had to look at that I could relate to somebody that had lost somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And so it taught me to be a comforter to somebody else.
Right.
And to show them the compassion that I might not have had unless that would,
Right.
would have happened. My mind tells me I know where Jeannie's at, but a lot of times my heart I still miss her.
Oh, yeah.
But
Mhm.
it still helps me to have compassion for people more
Right.
than it would have.
And that's what we're supposed to have, isn't it? Aren't we supposed to have compassion and love towards people? I mean, that's what Jesus taught, wasn't it? Do we truly have that for other people? Or do we kind of want to just hold it into ourselves? Like, well, I'm good. I like it that Jesus has love and compassion for me. But that guy down there, he doesn't smell that good, and I don't really want to be around him, and I don't have quite that compassion and love for him.
Well, it also opens up a lot of emotions in ourselves that we don't want to go there.
Exactly.
So, but we have to.
Mhm.
I mean, it opens up like memories or things but the more time goes on, and with Jeannie, I think of the memories and how funny she was.
Mhm.
Or even today, I'll hear stories about her
Right.
that I didn't even know about,
Mhm.
a
She
lot of-
touched people's lives
Right.
through her life that we see the fruits of that now, even now after she's gone. Tony.
In Proverbs, it talks about us as sheep waiting to be slaughtered. And so the minute we have any kind of fear of not serving the Lord the way we're supposed to, that verse comes into my head so much. Patience and I was just talking about it, and how fast we can just die. And if you know that you're not doing right with the Lord, you don't have another chance.
Right.
And that's what the fear is, because I don't want to go to hell. I read enough about it to not
Yep.
want to be there. Yeah.
And we're not guaranteed any time, are we?
No, not at all.
We're not guaranteed it. The same says in James 4, we're just like a vapor. We're just like a mist, and then we're gone. And that gets more prominent the older you get, guaranteed. Life goes way too fast. But what are we doing with the time we have right now? In David's case, at that point when he leaves the ark there, why didn't he just, as we said, why didn't he just say, Lord, God, I'm at your service. You've appointed me king. Now I need to be humble enough. Even though I'm king, I need to be humble enough to come to you and say, what do I need to do now? But at that point, he didn't. He was still...
Well, he asked, but then he just, like Dan said, he just left it.
Yeah. So, we've spent 20 minutes on review. In 14, Lau, did you have something?
In a way, okay, I'm going back, Brian, into where Moses came down, got the covenant, got the regulations of how to build the ark.
Yep.
And then David goes and says, oh, we'll cart it there, okay, sure, and then all that, and who's a boop, and all those poof.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, like, he wonders why he didn't get down on his knees and say, okay, it's all yours, God, come
Yep.
on. I don't know how to do this.
And that's one of the things that's the hardest for us to do even today, isn't it? To admit that we just don't have it together.
Right.
That God is in control. Let's start in 14. David's house and his family. Now Hiram, king of Tyre, sent messengers to David along with cedar logs, stonemasons, and carpenters to build a palace for him. And David knew that the Lord had established him as king over Israel, and that his kingdom had been highly exalted for the sake of his people, Israel. In Jerusalem, David took more wives and became the father of more sons and daughters. These are the names of the children born to him there. I am not good at pronouncing these names. You can pronounce them however you'd like because there's several of them there. But David is the people are pretty impressed that he's king, isn't he? Aren't they? I mean, this king, he's sending all the stonemasons, the cedar log. He's going to build him a palace in Jerusalem. David has prospered. Now, it wasn't okay to take multiple wives, as we knew with Solomon. David here, he's doing the same thing, isn't he? Do you think God is pleased with that?
No.
He's not pleased with that, is he? But what's the ultimate? Who is God concerned about ultimately in this whole thing? I know he's concerned about David, but what does it say he's concerned about mostly? End of verse 2, for the sake of his people Israel. That's what God wants, is for the people of Israel to see him as their God. Bottom line. David makes mistakes. We could go back on all the mistakes that David made, and it would take several classes, wouldn't it? Because he made a lot. Can we put ourselves in his shoes? Have we made a lot of mistakes? He's still keeping David as king, isn't he? He's still going to guide him if he consults God. And we're going to see that in the next verses. Starting in verse 8, when the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over all Israel, they went up in full force to search for him, but David heard about it and went out to meet them. Now the Philistines had come and raided the valley of Rephaim, so David inquired of God. Key, David inquired of God, shall I go and attack the Philistines? Will you hand them over to me? Boy, that was pretty simple, wasn't it? Didn't take a lot of effort, did it? He inquired of God, should I go up against these Philistines? Will you hand them over to me? Pretty simple. The Lord answered him, go, I will hand them over to you. So David and his men went up to Baal Perazim, and there he defeated them. He said, as waters break out, God has broken out against my enemies by my hand. That reminds me of how the Lord was over there in 13 when it talks about when David became angry because the Lord's wrath had broken out against Uzzah. He killed Uzzah. His wrath broke out. Here it says, as waters break out, God has broken out against my enemies by my hand. God struck him. Wasn't necessarily David. It was God. So that palace was called Baal Perazim. The Philistines had abandoned their gods there, and David gave orders to burn them in the fire. There have been some discrepancy if you look in Samuel, which Chronicles covers a lot of. I guess in Samuel it says that they hauled them away. They didn't burn them. They hauled them away and destroyed them some other way. But I think you could get pretty critical and say, well, this doesn't match up. But we're talking about somebody else writing about what happened. So maybe in one way or the other they were destroyed.
One way or
Do
the other.
both, they can haul them away.
And burn them. And maybe he just didn't record hauling them away. He just said they burned them. So once more the Philistines raided the valley. Once more. So David inquired of God again. And God answered him, do not go straight up, but circle around them and attack them in the front of the balsam trees. Now, he had a victory with the Philistines. They're coming against him again. Why bother talking with God again? He helped me the first time. He done it. Why inquire again? They're coming at me again. Same thing. Why did he inquire again? Do we ever do that?
He's learning his lesson.
Do we inquire of God on something that's really tough, and then he got us out of that spot? He helped us. God done it, as he said, as the waters burst. God done this for me. And then the next thing that comes up, we forget to inquire about God. Oh, he helped me the last time. He's surely with me now. Why do I have to ask? Why? Because God wants us to. God wants us to ask Him all the time. He wants to be there as our defender, as our supplier, everything. He wants us to be, He wants us to have a relationship with Him. And David is finally getting it. They're coming against me again. I should ask again to see what He wants me to do. And God says, don't go out like you did before. I want you to do something different. He said, do not go straight up like you did, but circle around them and attack them in the front of the balsam trees. And as soon as you hear the sound of the marching in the tops of the balsam trees, move out to battle, because that will mean God has gone out in front of you to strike the Philistine army. Isn't that where we want God? In front of us? We want Him in front of us. But how many times do we have Him in the back of us? You know, God is my co-pilot. I want Him as my pilot. I'm not running the show here. I want Him to run the show and me follow His lead.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
That's a good point I never thought about. It was the same situation.
Exactly.
And a different plan.
Different plan. Same thing. They're coming at us. The first time He went straight up at them. We're going to get them. The second time they're coming. Why wouldn't you just go straight at them again? But no, God had a different plan.
Because He knew better
Exactly.
how to do it.
God
This time,
always
that
knows
time.
better.
Yeah.
Always. His ways are not our ways. His plans aren't our plans. He always knows best. So David did as God commanded him, and they struck down the Philistine army all the way from Gibeon to Gezer. So David's fame spread throughout every land, and the Lord made all the nations fear Him. He's finally getting it right, isn't he? Finally, he's getting this, okay, He's helped me. All I had to do was inquire, Lord, what do I do in this situation? How do I handle this? Are we doing the same thing every day? Are we encountering situations? And it doesn't have to be a major battle. Just some of those simple things. Are we inquiring of God? How do you want me to handle this? If you're having problems with your neighbor, do you inquire of God, how do you want me to handle this? Or do you just take matters in your own hand? Hey, you know what? His dog comes over and does his business in my yard. Next time, the gun's coming out. Is that the way God wants you to handle it? Maybe not. He tells us to love our enemies. Well, that kind of goes against that, doesn't it? It may not be what we think is right. But if we inquire of God and He tells us, this is the way I want you to do it. I want you to circle around. I don't want you to hit it head on. Do it my way and you will have success. If we had some financial guru telling us, this is the way you make money, this is how you do it, do we follow him because we want to make money? He was successful. We want to be successful. We would follow him, right? Why is it so hard to figure that out with this? Why is it so hard to figure that God is in full control, and if we let Him run our lives, we will be successful? We may not have all the money in the world. We may not be the most popular people, but we are going to be successful in God's eyes. And isn't that what we want? We want to be successful in His eyes. We want to hear that great statement, well done, good and faithful servant. That's what we want to hear. Because that means we're at the pearly gates, and He is accepting us in. That's what we want to hear. But I think too many people are going to say, but Lord, look at all the things that I've done in your name. And He's going to say, I don't know you. You didn't do them. You just you tacked my name on that just to make it look good. Something to think about. Next week we're going to get into chapter 15, where He does finally bring the ark back the proper way. So hopefully we won't have to review a whole lot from this week, next week, and we'll get into that because that is a longer chapter. So thank you for all your comments, and we will look at that next week.